All right, yeah, good to be able to have the opportunity to talk to you guys. Good to see everybody. And I was going to talk tonight about self-worth. I think about that a lot. You know, self-esteem, self-talk, kind of right down there where the rubber meets the road. So I was going to just kind of give a little presentation on that, and then hopefully we have a little bit of time to talk about it for a few minutes, and there's some questions related to it on there. You know, if you feel like filling something out, fill it out. If you don't, that's fine too. But yeah, just wanted to run through that. And I wanted to start, I like to start just by getting a definition, looking up the definition of it on Google, see what the worldly definition for self-worth. And one I found says, the sense of one's own value or worth as a person, self-esteem, self-respect, the sense of self-worth, a kind of identity. Self-worth is the opinion you have about yourself and the value you place on yourself. An example of self-worth is your belief that you are a good person who deserves good things, or your belief that you're a bad person who deserves bad things. Okay, and that's kind of a definition that popped up. And then I looked at it and said, well, we'll enhance that definition a little bit. And I kind of come up with that feeling inside that you're doing the best you can, and whatever happens, you did your job, you did your part, and nobody can take that away from you. You're confident that you'll either succeed or you'll learn from your mistakes. In other words, that, inside feeling that you really feel good about yourself. And then I tried to look at the practical aspects of it, and I think our self-worth is kind of related or can come from a couple different places. From others, from ourselves, from God, okay? And I think our self-worth from others, it's kind of an oxymoron. Self-worth, self, but then you get it from others. I think we tend to do that a lot. I know I do. Kind of define myself maybe like what people were thinking about me. And I think we put so much stock in other people because they're tangible. They're right there in front of us. It's immediate, we can get immediate feedback, maybe get an attaboy or get some praise. Feel good about ourselves, from somebody telling us that. And nothing wrong with that. But, you just got to watch what your motives are in doing that. Because I guess one thing I've thought about, you can't really control what people tell you and how getting your self-worth from somebody else, it can be a little dangerous there. You can't control that. But we do that. Another thing, when you're talking about self-worth from others, thought about that can be kind of fleeting, kind of inconsistent, depends on how you feel, how somebody else feels, people's feelings, emotions, opinions, they change all the time. And I don't know if this ever happened to you guys, but have you ever done something or said something and somebody really loves that, and you do the same thing the same way, and the same person next day might be mad at you for it. You're like, what's up with that, So, people are kind of fleeting up and down, and again, if you're dependent on somebody else, it can be a little tricky. And sometimes, I know I do this, and I know other people that do it, but sometimes we equate what people think of us with self-worth. Okay, we do it consciously or we do it subconsciously, but our self-worth can come from other people again. And it's not the same thing, self-worth and what people think of us. Not the same thing, right? And I had a little note here, it's nice to get approval or praise from people, and we can use that to motivate us, but it shouldn't be the reason that we do things, right? And looking for approval from others can kind of be like a roller coaster, up and down and all around, because again, my emotions, I'm changing, the other person's changing. So that's kind of like what I went through for self-worth from others, and then self-worth that you get from yourself, okay? And that takes it a little different realm than looking at others, okay? I thought about that, and I think, you can get that. You set goals, you achieve your goals, you feel good, you're at peace internally. Maybe you set a goal, you know, running, jogging, weightlifting, you got some different goals. Set a goal to read a book, complete a project, go into rehab. You know, it's something that you said, I'm gonna accomplish this, I'm gonna work through it, and at the end, I'm gonna be able to feel good about it, because I set that goal. Nobody's taking it away from me. I can work through it and feel good about it, and that's kind of coming from you, right? Not from somebody else. And then I kind of equated it to sports. It's like a lot of people, you know, put the emphasis on winning and losing. It's not successful unless you win, right? But you can't win every game. You go out there, you practice as hard as you can, you watch game film, you learn about your opponents, you get yourself in shape, you practice different plays. And I think you can get self-worth from that, you know, from the actual, not necessarily the game, but from putting that work in. Does that make sense? You know, putting that work in, and then it's like you're just doing your best. You know, win or lose. I feel good about it because I know I did the best I could. I practiced, I did all that stuff, and you know, you can get the self-worth from that also. A few weeks ago, before the NFL draft, I guess you guys know Trevor Lawrence. He was projected to go number 1, and he did go number 1, and the quarterback out of Clemson, right? And I guess I just happened to notice he made a statement. It was pre-draft, before the draft. He made a statement. There was something to the effect that I don't need football. You know, he just said I don't need it. So I'm a complete person without it. And it was caused a little bit of a stir because people were looking at it. Man, he don't seem like he cares. You know, he's going to be the number 1 pick. I don't know if he cares about football. But he was kind of looking at it a little bit deeper. You know, like he's motivated by doing the best he can. That's how he got where he is, probably. He's saying, I don't let football define me, but what defines him is that practice, that internal motivation to be the best, the fact that he wants to learn, the fact that he wants to be better. That stuff's coming from within, right? Another thing I came up with, some of this stuff was from an article, some of it I hope came from God through me. But you can get a lot of self-worth by having the self-discipline to say no to yourself, right? A lot of times, that sins that we commit, we don't say no to ourselves. But when you say no, and sometimes the harder it is, when you tell yourself no, you can get a lot of self-worth from that. Self-confidence, like, man, you know what? I decided that. I stuck with it. I said no. I'm looking at the long term. I'm not going to do this short-term thing that's going to mess me up. You know, I'm looking at that, and saying no can give you a lot of confidence. Another thing I thought about, well, and again, then you can get self-worth from helping others, okay, not expecting anything else in return. We were in Bible study this morning, and somebody brought this up about what's your motive. You know, I can go out and help somebody. Am I doing that because I want to be seen, and I want people to say, wow, you're a nice guy, you're the kind of guy that goes out and helps people. You know, is that my motive, or is my motive just to help them and do the best I can, and I don't need any notoriety from it? And again, that's coming from within, right? That's not from somebody else. Okay, and then I looked at self-worth from God, okay, and I thought about that, you know, getting your self-worth from God. It kind of, genuine self-worth that flows through you. You know, you can almost feel it in your heart. When you get God in the equation, it just kind of, it's almost hard to explain, but it kind of flows through you. And then that Search for Significance book, wanted to read this again, and we read it, I think, with Charlie Powers there for the guys in that group a few weeks ago, but it's called My Identity in Christ. Because of Christ's redemption, I am a new creation of great worth. I am deeply loved, completely forgiven, fully pleasing, totally accepted by God, and absolutely complete in Christ. There has never been another person like me in the history of humankind, nor will there ever be. God has made me an original, one of a kind, a real somebody. I think most of you guys remember that. But that's something that we all have. You know, we may forget that from time to time, but that's built in. That's the way God created us. That doesn't leave us. You know, we think of ways that maybe it leaves us, but it doesn't. God made us that way. And then I looked up a few other verses related to self-worth in there. 2 Corinthians 5:17. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. So new every day, right? Sins are forgiven. We always have a chance to move on. I mean, that's every day. Psalm 139, for you informed my inward parts, you knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, my soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. So God made us for good, okay? He accepts us as we are. He made us in his image to prosper when we follow his ways, and that doesn't depend on anyone else, right? That's built in. He made us that way. Romans 12:2, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. Thought about that, and I said, look at your standing with God first. Don't look at the world first. Look at your vertical relationship first, right? And maintain that self-worth that's built in and that he gave us. And then everything flows from there, right? Proverbs 28, better is a poor man who walks in his integrity than a rich man who is crooked in his ways. Integrity is in our hearts, right? God sees our hearts. And I guess we can examine our self-worth and look at how God sees us, how God sees our self-worth. You know, I know myself, a lot of times I do depend on a lot of people. I'm codependent. I just, you know, my wife, my kids, sometimes I just have to back it off and just like, hey, I'm good with God. You know, I don't need the rest of this stuff because it's too, like a roller coaster. So I guess the main point that I kind of sum this up, you know, with it's hard to explain what real self-worth is without bringing God into the equation. But when you realize that God, he's always there, I guess to me, it's like, you know, people say, well, I don't know, God doesn't have time to fix my finger or, you know, do this or do that. But I look at it like it's built in. God isn't running around following us all around. He builds it in, like you touch a hot stove, you get burnt. That just happens. I mean, God's not there. It's the way he made us, right? And I think that's with our self-worth, we can get off track, but he builds that into us. It's there, it doesn't leave us. You know, it's always there for us. We can always rely on that, and we can rely on him. I guess maybe have a couple minutes for discussion, or do we want to start praying at 6:30?